Hello, everyone. Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV Spotlight On. We have the very talented Kate Mansi here to tell you all things Days. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Well, hello, all of you Days fans, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV Spotlight On. I am your host, Tony Moore, and we are joined by a very special guest today. You guys have asked for it, and we have now delivered. We have the very beautiful Miss Kate Mansi.
Well, thank you.
I thought he was talking about me for a second.
Introduction. Yes, would you like me to introduce you? The very beautiful.
And of course, we have my co-host in crime. We have
Matthew Evan Paine. So excited to be here. So glad that you joined us.
So excited to be here as well.
So happy that you're here. I know that I bugged you a lot for quite some time.
Oh, please, twist my arm. I love talking about myself.
We bugged you as much as the fans bugged us to get you here.
Good.
Yes,
No, I'm happy
yes.
to be here.
So let's get right into it. All things Days with you.
Yes.
You have had such an amazing run on the show, especially these last few months have been very interesting. But I kind of want to start at the beginning with you because I heard or read.
It's a very good place to start.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always great to start at the beginning. I read that you actually auditioned for Days before you got the role of Abigail, and you actually auditioned for Melanie.
Yeah, I did.
So how?
I know you said that like it was such a scandal.
Dun, dun, dun.
For us, it was.
We all know how that ends.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I always love finding out that people have gone in for other roles.
Sure, yeah.
Before they got that role. So going in for Melanie, like, how was that experience for you? And then getting the call, 3 years later
Oh yeah,
for
it was
Abigail?
so crazy. It was, it's so funny because I forget who it was. Someone once said, the right role goes to the right person at the right time. Mm-hmm. And if I know one thing to be true, it's that, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I was so happy to audition. I was going to college at the time. I was at Pepperdine University majoring in public relations, and I have a mother who is a theatrical agent, and she was like, you are not getting in this industry. So I was like begrudgingly making my way through college and auditioning on the side and everything. And I had done, commercials and print work and things like that, but nothing substantial. So when I got to screen test for Days, that was my first screen test as Melanie, and it was on the set of the DeMera Mansion, which was a lot bigger back then.
Yes.
And I remember seeing Molly, and I remember, I don't know what else. I remember, Marnie and I obviously had started a relationship at that point, but she was so kind and so generous and so great with all of us. And I was auditioning with Darren Brooks because I was going to be playing his brother. And afterwards, Marnie said, okay, we're going to do this again, but can you try not to have chemistry with him because, he's your brother? And I was like, oh, right, of course. But it wasn't something that I was really, conscious of. I don't know. I think it just didn't work as brother and sister, obviously. And true to the quote, it went to the right person, and Molly was great. And then when I auditioned a second time or screen tested a second time, I was actually put in her dressing room, I remember. And I was like, well, this is odd.
Yeah.
And she came in, it was her day off or something, and I was screen testing to play for a character that never ended up coming to fruition. Yeah, but they had me in her dressing room, and I was, auditioning to be with Casey Diedrich at the time, who was Chad, who was Molly's boyfriend then.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in her dressing room, and she came in and was like, I'm so sorry, I just have to drop off, I just have to put a pizza in the fridge, I'm sorry, and totally not bothering you. And I was like, God, she's so nice. And it was great. I mean, that shows, a lot of people have said this, but it's a great place to be. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you definitely received the right role, because I don't know if I could picture you as Melanie.
Molly is so perfect for that, and she even made it. I think from what I remember, it was obviously when you audition, it's a different thing. But I mean, she brings so much fun and just approaches things so uniquely that I think it was perfect for that.
Yeah.
And tell us about the audition for Abigail. I heard that was kind of a roller coaster too, right?
Yeah. So I auditioned for sort of. I auditioned so I screen tested a second time, like I said, and then that didn't happen, and I was bummed. But then really, it was just, they called me, like, I think it was, I don't know, 2 years later or something. I got a call from Marnie, and she just said, what are you doing? And I was like sitting on my parents' couch because I don't know what I'm doing. As actors have those, peaks and valleys. And she said, I want you to dye your hair blonde and come in for a meeting tomorrow. And I was like, you want me to what? And I was like, one Italian to another. Like, we are not blonde. But so I did, because I was like, what do I have to lose? Excuse me. And I showed up at her meeting, and then
wow,
it just kind of like happened. I think one of those things in this business, being in the right place at the right time, and what's for you doesn't pass you by,
Yeah.
So.
Well, the adventures of Abigail have been a lot for the past few years.
Yes.
What for you has been your favorite storyline to play? I know the mental health one is probably up there, but what other storylines have you enjoyed with Abigail?
It's such a hard question, because it's like when people say, like, what's your favorite movie, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
there's there's a couple of them that I list off.
I think that they're all special to me in different ways, you know? I mean, my story with Patrick Muldoon and Christy Clark, that everybody went crazy about for the, Cray Abby.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite for the reason that, Christy Clark and Patrick Muldoon, these veterans, these like, Days is a well-oiled machine, but they are like actors. And that was the first time that I was given the opportunity to sink my teeth and really get in the ring with these people. And I learned so much about acting from Christy Clark and from Patrick Muldoon just by sitting together, having sushi and drinks, and like talking about the script, and learning how to break down a script, and just that whole dynamic was great for me. I think I learned a lot from the challenging ones were my favorite. The story with James Scott was like amazing, because I learned, what it was like to be hated on social media for a long time, and how to deal with that. I learned how to all of it. Working with Ali Sweeney at that level too. Like,
you got to slap Ali Sweeney.
Okay, but yes, and she slapped me back. But to be fair, like, Ali's one of those women that's like, I'm not afraid of anything. Like, bring it. And that was a great sort of like vision for me to, look up to, really. And so I was really blessed to work with those women in that way, and in those sort of dysfunctional love triangles. And again, like, I learned so much from them. They had their own rhythm too in the way that they rehearse, and I've always been kind of like the third person. literally, and I was like, I'm breaking up the marriage, but also was like, you guys have been working together for 7 years, like, let's run lines, So I was extremely fortunate to be placed in that. And then the mental institution, and this last story will be my favorite because it was the last, you know?
Yeah. I personally enjoyed the Sammy, EJ, you triangle.
Yes.
Like, I thought, like, some of those scenes.
The shower scenes.
Oh my God.
Or the stock room.
I have to
yeah.
At one point, I was like, wait, are we making 50 Shades of, like, what?
Right.
Yeah. I was like, what story is this becoming? But yeah, that shower scene, I was on a plane once to Istanbul, and this woman behind me, like, tapped me on the shoulder, and she was like, I saw this scene. I was like, wait, what? You're kidding me. So yeah, it was, I think, one of the most risque, but...
that was a nail-biting scene when Ali walked into the room, when Sammy walks into the room, and you were in the shower with EJ.
Yes. But yeah, it was. And I think, again, like, Ali has so much tact, because if she's a professional, she came in and did her job and never complained. But, like, that's not the most comfortable position to be in, you know?
But just that whole storyline with her plotting her revenge, and you guys
they did a great job with that.
So great with that. With Abigail, we've seen her progress. How have you, as an actress, really worked towards, or what have you done to help with the evolution of Abigail?
Well, I don't know. I think that I think it's a collective effort when you're building a character, especially with TV, because it changes. It's not like a set story. I think that it's this symbiotic relationship, right? Like, they are inspired by something that they saw in me, or in a relationship that I have on camera or something, and so they write a story, but I'm inspired by the writing to go a certain way. So I think there's like a constant sort of push and pull of shifting influences with each other, maybe. And I think when I made the decision to renew, I really said I wanted to stay until Days hit their 50th. Yeah. And I knew that, but I also I was really excited about the opportunity that Josh and Dina being there. You know, Dina had originated the role, and they were really committed to seeing all actors. They said, you know, come in, talk to us, and I was like, hey guys. So knock, knock, knock. I spent a lot of time thinking about like, what story do I want to tell? What story hasn't been told? Like, what can we explore that we haven't? And I just, you know, really felt like if this were, I think in daytime sometimes we have this tendency to put on this false reality filter and just say like, well, this happened, and then next week that's happening, and this, and you know, you have 30 characters that are like all going through like the big most traumatic things in the smallest town ever, right? And so I think sometimes we forget to see them as people. And when I started to really think about like, this is one woman that has had all of this stuff happen to her. So what does that look like when that manifests, and what's that story like? And I just sat with Josh and Dina, and we kind of, they were like, oh, that's interesting. What about this? And I've often thought that. And I think that I can't take credit because we all kind of like piggybacked onto that idea. And Albert Alar was hugely like influential in the story that was created, and all the writers. And I was just so privileged, you know. I think at a certain point we all were like, oh, this might be an interesting story to tell. Let's like rip the foundation off and or the covers off and expose this cracked foundation of this woman who has been, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. And so I just got lucky. I got really lucky with everybody wanting to take a chance on telling a great story.
It was so layered with the abuse from Ben, with the death of Jack.
Will. Which I think hit everyone hard.
Oh my God.
Yeah, totally. All of that. And I think also for the first time for me, you know, like I said, I had been a part of so many love stories, right? So many love triangles. And I wanted to just say, let's hold on a second, and maybe let's tell a story that, I mean, I've been blessed with amazing co-stars, but what if this is a story not about like a woman that's defined by a man saving her, but like, let's just take a minute and sit in the reality of like, what happens when you're kind of at that, it reminds me of when your iPhone says like, you know, you need to back up, or like warns you that you need to buy more storage. Like, she was at the brim and couldn't take on anymore. And so I think that in a way that's a love story as well, right? But I think that I don't know, I got really lucky.
Speaking of your co-stars, you've got to work with great people
amazing
on the show.
Men,
what was that like, you know, stepping into, you know, this show and its history? Were you nervous to going into this? How was that for you?
No, I don't know. Chemistry is not really something I've had a problem with.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
I haven't really had that, but I've been so blessed with these men that were like, all of them were just like, game on, you know, let's like dive in. So I got lucky that way. Again, I think, and all of them, I mean, I really was like, wow, I've worked with so many. I mean, even from some of the recasts, Justin Gaston and Nathan Owens and Skylar Yancey and obviously Billy Flynn and Casey Diedrich, like they've all made it their own. They've all made it special, and they've all been, lucky for me, like super dedicated and had the same desire I did to really like make a story.
Have you had a favorite male co-star? You've had Patrick Muldoon, you've had James Scott, Billy Flynn, Rob Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to say that. Yeah, of course, Rob Wilson. Yeah, I mean, I have my favorites for different things, you know? It's like, imagine a world where you got to have like 8 different lovers, you know, like you have different things that you go to.
Matthew has imagined that world.
Maybe that's a little.
It starts
Give
with
me
Greg
a new
Brown.
one,
My
Kate.
point is like you go. It's like your friends. Like you go to you go to them for different things. You know, I have a totally different relationship from each person. You know,
right.
And that's because they are their own artists and their own people, you know. I don't know, I really have been so lucky to work with just awesome men and women,
Right.
you know.
Tell us about your relationship with Melissa Reeves.
Oh, Missy. I was just texting with her daughter. Missy is, I mean, just, that's her. Like, what you see is what you get. And I have to say, some of my favorite moments are the ones where you see, like, what she submitted with her Emmy reel. I don't know if you guys saw that, but when Missy, you know, people often see Missy for this incredibly sweet, nurturing, beautiful, kind woman that she is.
Yeah.
And she is.
Yes.
But when you see the Italian Jersey, like, lion of a mother like come out in her, it's powerful. And that is something that it was so fun to work with that, you know. The scenes that she had with Cassie DePaiva with when with the whole JJ scandal, I mean, you look at that and I'm inspired to be like a mother someday, thinking like, that's what kind of woman I want to be. That's what kind of, like, you know, and that's who she is. So
when she walked in that room and saw,
totally, it's like it's just all of a sudden you're
it was like,
where's Missy?
It's like she saw red and she was
it's
just like
this Beyonce like ultra thing happens and you're just don't cross her.
Oh, right.
You two had a fantastic scene together. It was the episode that was dedicated to Jennifer.
Right.
She was having the foreshadowing of what her life could be like if she continues down the road of drinking. And you walk in and you're like, Thomas was in the driveway.
Yeah.
That was so moving.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one, but I know I felt it when it was happening. She, I think that story was, it's you know, it's obviously a pretty exaggerated version of anything close to Missy, but at her core, there's nothing in this world that means more to her than being a mother and than her family. I mean, that woman is loyalty, and so you know, you could see it. She just crumbled under it because what you're saying, you're insulting her mother. I mean, even though, you know, Missy doesn't know from, you know, probably being addicted to pills and drugs and alcohol and all that, but she knows what it feels like to have your children disappointed in you, I'm sure, as any mother would. And that pain, like, I felt it when I was working with her. But yeah, I mean, Missy's incredible.
Yeah. So one of the big storylines that happened between with Rob, and you were involved in it as well, was the necktie killings.
Yes.
And
tiny little story.
That tiny little
blip
bit
on the
of a
radar.
Story. Yeah. Well, how did you feel, you know, going into the show and like getting the scripts and reading about like the killings, and it was going to be revealed that Ben was the killer and all this? Like, how were you feeling like during that time?
We didn't know until, I mean, for a while, and I don't think Rob knew quite until he did, you know. But I felt, I mean, it's complicated, obviously, like, for him and for all of us. Like, I mean, I loved working with Rob. I would work with him if he said, let's, like, make a movie about cleaning toilets. I'd be like, okay, you know, he's great.
Yeah.
But I think that, so I was sad because I didn't want him to go, but I knew that this was like, he was getting his story.
Yeah.
So I had nothing but excitement, you know, for him, and to see him sort of chew on that was really cool, and like evolve into that character. And to see, I think also for Rob, which he would probably agree with, like, I think that those were that was like my moment with Patrick and Christy. Like, that was the moment where he really got to explore and
grow as an actor.
Like what his like thing is, and how he would approach stuff, and it was just awesome.
Yeah. And how about for you? Because I think that's when we started realizing, well, when the storyline began with you, and how brilliant you were as well with this storyline, and now there's this other side of Abigail that we're starting to see. What was it like for you venturing into this storyline with, you know, being kidnapped and almost set on fire, and then it's leading us into, you know, this breakdown that Abigail was
super light,
have.
really easy.
Yeah. She hasn't been through a lot.
It's fine.
No big deal.
Nothing.
What was it like? Man, I mean, it was challenging, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was, I mean, look, I had the story of, if you could ask me at 16, like, what do you want to do? I would have said, like, I want to sink my teeth into a part that's like really challenging for me and like really makes me think. And that's what that story did. It made me think about, I mean, it just was like opening Pandora's box. I mean, I did so much research, and I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I think that I just committed to telling myself, like, look, I'm going to give a year of my life to this character and to this story, and whatever comes, comes. But I'm going to just get
sink
in it.
Into it.
Yeah. So I talked to so many psychologists, and I researched so much about the evolution of mental disorder and like what happens, and talked to a therapist specifically about my character, like it was me, and said like, what's your diagnosis, or what do you think, and what are the behaviors, and I just learned a lot about, and I think that is something I'm really grateful for too, because you think you know and you don't, you know. But yeah, it was challenging. I think probably more for my friends and family that had to see me just kind of like go into marathon mode and be in something so heavy. But again, was blessed with a great story. Was blessed with great co-stars, and it was the best story I've had.
Do you bring your work home with you? Like, if you're trying to get into that mentally ill Abigail, like, do you have to stay in a certain frame of mind when you're heading home or when you're at home?
I definitely like wore the hospital gown home. No.
Did you wear the mask home too?
Yeah, I was like, sorry, babe, this is gonna stay. No, I mean, yeah, to a certain degree. I think that's like look, you have to make. I think that it's really easy to make it difficult for yourself, right? And to say like, this is so, and you have to really like remind yourself, like, this is relative, and let's remember, you got to remember to find yourself in those moments. I think it's impossible, or it was for me at least, to not take it home, because we would finish, and then the next day we had another 100 pages to memorize. So to a certain degree, I took it home for a year, because the preparation required to, it's not like I was working on a film or a play where you had all this rehearsal time. I mean, that show is a machine. Like, we worked so quickly, and to do that heavy material that quickly, like, I had to. So, I don't know.
How is it even possible to remember all that dialogue? Like, it is a machine, but how do you go about memorizing 100 pages?
I'm so glad you asked that. It's a muscle, and I still continuously am forcing myself trying to memorize one thing every day, even if it's like a recipe or a sentence on a bus or a billboard or something. But it's a muscle, because when I started, I couldn't memorize shit. I mean, like, really, really, I was like, I remember being in acting class, and they said, you booked this job, and I had to go to acting class that night, and it was a cold read class, and I totally screwed up. And on stage, I like turned and like started banging my head against the wall, and I was like, I'm never gonna be able to do this. Like, these soap actors memorize so much dialogue. And I was totally intimidated, but it's a muscle. And it's just, if you work it stays with you, and that's like just the only answer I have. So, well,
speaking of working it, we have a little clip of how you were working it in the mental hospital. So let's take a little look at that.
Okay.
It still creeps me out. It's so creepy.
It is, yeah.
But I mean, you've gotten commended by so many people that we've had in here on your work as Abigail, and especially within the storyline, Mary Beth Evans praised you for your work. Deidre Hall has praised you for your work. How do you feel about the accolades that you get regarding this storyline, and what have you heard from fans regarding this storyline?
Well, on that note, just quickly, because I could talk for hours about this, I will say that the women on our show are so incredible. I mean, truly, like Missy, Mary Beth, Christian Alfonso, Deidre Hall, I mean, all of those women there have been so kind to me and so great. And so to that point, like, I just was lucky, and you don't see that in a lot in this business.
Right.
So they were great, and I appreciate that. But they were so supportive the whole way. And I think that the fans are amazing. Like, I mean, I'm sure you guys maybe have seen the video. They make these montage videos.
Oh, God, yes.
I don't even know. I would have to go to school for so long to figure out how to do that and have patience and the thought that they put behind, like, what music to choose and what clips. And I mean, it's brilliant. Like, I'm like, are you guys seeing this? Not because of me, but I'm like, how did they do this? It's amazing.
The fans are amazing.
They just have been, like, showering me with, like, I remember when it was my last day, or like leading up to, they were sending me all these collages of, like, you know, me, the evolution of, like, when I first started, my first scene, like a still with, like, the blonde hair and all the other bad hairstyles that went on and then to now, and they just, I mean, incredible. Like, I feel so lucky, and it's just a reminder every day that the kindness of strangers, like how awesome it is to have people. I mean, to that point as well, like, you can't ever hold on to it too tightly, because just as quickly as they'll build you up, they'll tear you down. Not them specifically, but like again, it's relative. And I know that, but it's nice. It's lovely. I mean, it's so cool. It's like the best to hear that they're engaged and they actually gave a shit about a story I told. Means a lot. And then to have people reach out and say, like, you know, I had an aunt with mental illness, or I struggled with this, or I struggled with that, and, like, I couldn't believe that you whatever. Those were the moments where I, you know, walking, checking my phone, had to really stop and say, we did this right. You know, not me, but we all did something right to feel, to get that response.
Completely.
You mentioned earlier about being hated on by the fans for breaking up a relationship. Was it the Carrie and Austin relationship, or was it the EJ and Sammy relationship?
It was probably all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I came between a lot of them. Yeah. Little home wrecker, but
I was like, who is this hoe?
No, the Sammy. Yeah, see, you were one of us.
Slut is the word.
Right.
That's always used. Yeah.
We had, I had a lot. I mean, I got, when I first became Abby, I was getting hate mail like crazy until someone said to me, stop reading that, and I was like, I feel like I have to like, oh, it, and they're like, you don't have to. Yeah. So the hate mail that came in was like just insane, but because they loved Ashley Benson, and again, you have to make it your own. If you live and die by what they tell you, and you read the boards all day and whatever, then that's it. But you know, it takes it's tricky, you know, to navigate, to hear people say that you're like, oh, I'm just waking up, I'm gonna like surf the internet or like go on Twitter, and all of a sudden you're like, how dare you? I mean, I was at a gas station in Mojave this weekend on my way home from our cabin up in by Mammoth, and I was like waiting in line at the bathroom, and this woman looked at me, and it was like 106 degrees, so everyone was a little loopy, but she looked at me and was like, you're out. And I was like, wait, what's happening right now? And she was like, oh my gosh. And then she realized that she was like, I can't believe I just did that, but I have been watching your show for so long. I literally just looked at you and was like, oh my God, that girl, she just escaped like the thing. I was laughing so hard, and I totally, like, it was so sweet and funny and everything, but to know that they aren't indifferent and that they care is such a great thing, you know?
Let's one thing that I really want to ask you about, you know, in your last days of the show, the mask. Your
last days of days.
I know, right?
The mask. The
mask.
Now, I thought, this was my theory behind it, was that they were setting up the character of Abigail to go away. and then eventually
recast, yeah.
the recast would come
Right.
in. But then the mask came off and it came back on. Can you help us out with with the mask and why it was there?
We were
I don't
what
know
the
if any of
purpose of
us
it?
can give an answer to that. Okay, so here's what I will say about that.
Okay.
I was as shocked as you were. I remember when Rob came in one day, he was like, Kate, what's this? Like, this is about a mask? Like, I don't understand. What's happening here? I know I've been gone for a while, but like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you because I'm just as shocked as you are. I originally thought it was for the recast as well, which, look, makes sense. Get
Right.
it. And that was like, you know, fairly easy to process, like totally understand. So they had given me revisions pretty quickly. I didn't know what the mask was going to be like or anything. But I called Cassie DePaiva and said, hey, I have to do this thing. Like, what do you think about that? And she's like, oh, it's like a totally typical soap thing. People do it. And then it's for the recast. And she kind of helped me like understand what was happening. And I was like, okay, cool. And then there were all these revisions after of like, it's on, it's off, it's on and off.
Yeah.
So I,
So
you
it's
know,
still a
I don't know
question
what to
mark.
say about that. I was, you know, I was upset because I felt like we had taken the story so far and to then all of a sudden get this like, oh, breaking news, there was a fire that set off in the hospital where I was like, well, where
What?
was that scene? Yeah, like, should we do that? So that felt a little non-linear to me and a little confusing. But I think everyone was like just trying to figure out how to craft the exit, and that's how it happened.
As an actor, do you have any say? Like, if you're like, where did that fire come from? Should we shoot that or no? Like, do they take into consideration thoughts, or are thoughts even allowed?
mean, yeah, of course. Like I like in the conversation that I've referenced so many times, that I had the privilege to sit down with Dina and Josh and say like, and kind of like have an open discussion about what we both were aiming for. That totally happens. Not all the time. I was very lucky that they even wanted to hear me, and that they, you know, that it was a collaborative effort then with Albert and I and everyone involved. But at that point, I was like, okay, this is no longer my ship to. It wasn't my. That wasn't my decision, and I could have like fought it and said like, well, what are we doing here and whatever. But honestly, like at a certain point, I was like, I'm leaving so soon.
Yeah.
And if this is how they want the story to go, then that's how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I might not like it. I might have wanted the other version, but you know, it's. Mary Beth says always, it's show business, not show family, and it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
I think
I love that.
I was sensitive because I was like, wait, what's happening? And it happened so quickly. But yeah, in retrospect, like I understand why that happened. I wish maybe it would have been more consistent, like we would have either kept it on or kept it off. But you know, they did a beautiful job crafting my exit. And look, this business doesn't owe you anything, but I was so lucky to have had the 5 years I had on that show, so they could end it any way they want, and it was still good with me.
What was your last day on set like?
Gosh, so many things. Crazy, you know. It was really outer body sometimes, you know. There were moments, the very last scene I remember standing on, I looked out at, you know, Marnie was there, and my boyfriend and my mom and Maria and some people were starting to sort of like collect, and I felt that pressure of like, oh shit, this is it. I don't know what to do. You're gonna have to push me out of the door because I don't want to leave here. And I looked down and I saw that it was the same set that I had screen tested on. It was the DeMere Mansion. Which is so funny, you know, your journey, just like I said, it right role was the right person at the right time. And there's been Abigails before me, there's one after me. And, you know, while I was her, it served me so
well.
So, I mean, I was just, I was really lucky. So.
Have you met the new girl who's taken over Abigail?
I haven't. I have not met her. I don't know too much about her, but I know she's a redhead, which you'll be probably happy about, that it's closer to...
Is she red?
Or maybe she's blonde.
I thought she was really blonde.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't know. I've only seen one little thumbnail photo of her.
Okay. Yeah, no, I have not met her. I've been so busy, and everyone at Days, like, we see each other sort of in passing. I'm sure I'll meet her someday at something. But, you know, wish her the best, and I'm happy for the show that they found someone.
Yeah. Well, before because our time is winding down,
Yes.
but I want to make sure that you guys have a chance to call in and talk to Kate. So make sure you give us a call here in the studio. We will be taking your calls in just a few minutes. And our lovely engineer, I hope, crossing my fingers, will post the number in our chat room if you are watching us live, so that way you can give us a call and give Kate your comments or questions, and we'll take those in just a few minutes. Going back to when you got the role of Abigail, was there anyone that gave you advice going into this? Because this is, I know it was this was a huge deal for you. This was like your first big thing.
Yeah.
Was there someone that you talked to that gave you advice before you started?
Yeah, there were a lot of people. I feel like I had so many little guardian angels there, from Stuart to
Stuart.
everybody. And I asked for advice often. You know, I really am such a sponge that way. I was like, just I wanted to like soak in the walls of that place if I could. I learned so much when I was there, but I had incredible advice from all of the women, you know.
Yes.
Maria O'Brien was a huge influence in my work there, and Marnie, really, like I
love her.
I can't I can't say specifically, but she at every moment, you know, she's the wisest. I just feel like she was put on this earth sometimes to find the, you know, like lost deer in the forest and just like set them straight or stand up for them. And yeah, she was so kind and so great to me. And Christian Alfonso too. Like so many moments I would come into her room and be like, what's happening? Not even about the show, but like, I don't know what's going on in life, or like, and she would be like, okay, honey, sit down. Let's let's talk about it. Let's find a solution, you know? So
Another East Coaster.
Yeah, right.
Was it hard for you to make the decision to leave
Immensely, yeah, of course. I mean, who wants to leave something where you're getting, you know, where you have a paycheck and you're comfortable and you love the people you work with? I was like, am I crazy? I don't know.
And what led you to make?
I knew that I had wanted to make it earlier, just because for the trajectory of my career and like just because it was time. But I wasn't sure when that would be the time before. And then once I committed to resigning for a year, I knew that it would not be an easy decision for me at the end of the year, but I knew that it was time, and I had to just like make the decision and take the jump. And to that point, you know, that's why there's been 7 Abigails. It's like Ashley did the same thing, and now I've done it, and now, you know, the next Abigail is taking and inhabiting that role. And I think maybe we'll all throw like an Abigail lunch party someday and like all get together or something. But
7
truthfully,
Abigails,
like
wow.
she is now it's hers, and she will do her own thing with it. And now, you know, we all it never really leaves you, right? But now, you know, we're all evolving in a different place.
Now, obviously, you just left. Do you see yourself ever going back?
I mean, not right now, unless no. I don't know. I mean, I think that daytime is one of the hardest genres I've ever, you know, experienced working in, and I have so much respect for daytime and for days. And if the opportunity presents itself, I'm not closed-minded to it at all. But right now is not that time, you know.
Mark and Tony broke the news that you were leaving on air, and you practically had to scrape me off the floor. I was like, no, she's not. I didn't hear that.
It's quite a different reaction, I'm sure, than that hoe, right?
Yes. I have to say one thing that I've been dying to talk about really quickly. They were talking about, or Tony was talking about the mask. Abigail loves a good prop. The blue ski cap, Austin's hat. I can't find a picture of that online anywhere. How fun was that, just to be that crazy?
You know what's interesting about that is that every single time I had a new co-star I was going to be working with, or like a new story, you know, you can kind of start to sniff it out in a moment. You're like, oh, I had this random scene with James Scott on a bench. Like, wonder what that's at, you know? So I remember it was like, my character would always be like running, like physically like running into someone. Like the first scene I had as Abigail, I was like running into Casey Diedrich on at a pub or something like that. And with Patrick, it was the same. We like ran into each other, and it was this like thing, and then we ran into each other with the hat and all this stuff. But for some reason, I remember that too a lot. And I was just working with him recently, and I was like, remember that like blue hat of yours that like whatever? And he was like, yeah, that thing was the shit. Or, you know.
Another one. I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
So since you've left Days, you have been quite the busy bee. You have not one, not two, but 3 indie films coming out. Talk to us about that, because I know fans love to keep up with you and find
so
out what
amazing.
you're going on.
Someone told me a long time ago, like, just wait, these fans are loyal. And then once the hate mail came in the beginning, when I was like, okay, I get it, they're loyal. But then when I was on the other end of that, I was like, wow, they are amazing.
And
I wish that everyone had that.
Too.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, I did 3 films. Muse is going to be great, and I'm really excited about. Most recently, House Guest with Beth Littleford and Ted King, who's a Daytime as well, former Daytime, and then I did The Boyfriend Killer. So that I don't know. I'll tell you details, but yeah, those are both Mar Vista films, and sort of. It's so odd. They booked Patrick Muldoon in Boyfriend Killer first, and then they said, he said, when does it start? And they said, we're looking for someone young enough to be this like innocent girl next door, but that can like really handle playing crazy. And he's like, Baba, I got your girl. And then he called me or texted me. He was like, what are you doing? Send me stuff right now. And I was like, what do you mean? What am I doing? Like, I can't. And then he was like, never mind. I'll just tell them to watch the show. Aren't you going crazy on the show right now? And I was like, what? So I thought nothing would ever happen. And then they watched the show, actually, and called and offered me the role. And so I was playing another, like, Cray Abbey, I guess, like, character.
Yeah. What is it like to play Cray?
I don't know. I'm still learning, but fun and difficult and interesting. I mean, it's you kind of just gotta give over. I'm learning how to do that now. Let go of the reins a little, but
it's tough sometimes,
fun.
Isn't it?
All the time it's tough. Yeah, but it's fun. I mean, I think that there's a certain energy to it, and you have to just acknowledge that element of it and respect that it's a strong one.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like, I have so much fun.
We play Cray all the time here, so
yeah, we all do.
I don't know if we're playing.
I don't know if we're playing.
I think we have a caller on the line. Hello, caller. Welcome to AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On. You are on live with Kate Mansi. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi. My name's Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
And where are you calling from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I'm from South Carolina. Carolina's in the house.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you have a question or comment for Kate?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm really shy and my heart's pounding. But
no, don't be shy. We are
Kate,
the sweetest people.
You've been my favorite on Days since you started, and I love Abigail. And I'm just wanted to know your thoughts on Chad and Abigail's relationship. I'm a huge Chappie fan, and just gotta give you a call.
Oh, thank you for calling. Yeah, I think that Chabby is obviously the love story that maybe none of us want because there's so much trauma, but it's the heroic, classic, fairy tale love in a lot of ways. So I'm so glad that it resonated with you.
Yeah, I tell you one person who would give Abby a run for their money. Lorraine Love.
Mark J Freeman.
AKA Mark J Freeman. When it comes to Billy Flynn and Chad DeMera, yeah, Mark is all about it. I mean, right. I don't get it, but whatever. Yeah. Well, thank you, Laura, for calling in.
Thank you,
Thanks,
and
Laura.
good luck, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll take this next caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On. You're on live with the lovely Kate Mansi. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Anne from Montreal, Canada.
Hey, Anne.
Hi, Anne.
How are you?
Not too bad yourself.
Doing great. Do you have a question or comment for Kate?
I actually just had a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
I know. I'm like, should I brace myself?
We all brace like, whoa. Go ahead.
No. I just want to say, Kate, you've done an amazing job for the last year and a half or so. And frankly, you got screwed in the Emmy. You deserved it.
Well, thank you.
You really
for saying
did.
That.
I have a daughter that I've been watching with for the last 5-6 years, and you know, she was on the edge of her seat through the entire storyline.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
She loved watching you burn Ben. she thought that was fabulous.
Oh, good. Well, women are triumphant, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
And
That's
I
so
think
sweet.
you really showed that.
I
You
appreciate
could see
that.
Abby slip, but at the end of the day, she got her revenge.
Yes, she did.
Yes, she did.
She did. Well, thank you
you.
so much for calling in, and keep watching.
Thanks.
Thank you.
How fun were those scenes lighting Ben on fire?
Oh, so we had too much fun. It was great, yeah.
I loved watching those scenes because I felt like Abby had a chance to just like, it's like, you've been around and now this is my opportunity to really get you. And I think she still thought it was in her mind, but it was actually happening.
Yeah.
And that was also during the time where Ben kept popping up. And we were like, oh, it's the real Ben. Wait, what?
Yeah, which Ben is that?
it's the real Ben.
Is that real Ben or fake
You
Ben?
and me both were doing so many episodes. At a certain point, I'm like, well, are you there or are
That's
you?
what he was saying too when he was here. He was like, "Now, am I real Ben or am I Vision Ben?"
yeah. There were so many, yeah.
But it was so great.
I couldn't believe that when I was watching the show, I was thinking, "There's no way they're going to show her lighting him on fire." Oh wow, they're showing him. Yeah.
I thought that. I was like, well, how's this gonna go? And then I got there and we had amazing stunt people. But, you know, I got there and Rob's standing in front of me, like literally on the bed, like, all right, here we go. And I was like with the match, like, oh my God. It was great. It was awesome. Yeah.
Now, one thing I wanted to mention before we have to go is that I don't know how many people know this, but you are a dancer first.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. I mean, do you know how many times we could have danced together? We could have really cut a rug.
Well, always time.
That's true. Are you still dancing? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I was just having this conversation with a woman the other day, and she said it's such an archaic thought that you can only have one career path these days, and I thought that's so true. But also for me, I don't think I'm interested in a career. Look, actually, I will rephrase. I know that there's nothing else I will ever do, even if I'm cleaning toilets with Rob in some short. But I know that I'm meant to be an actor because that's how I feel in my soul.
Yeah.
The only way I'll be fulfilled. But I enjoy dance. I never felt that way with dance. I never felt like I have to do this or it's gonna, be toxic to me. So with acting, I think I'll dance, here and there. But when you do it so competitively and so seriously for a while, it's hard to get back into class and like not judge yourself that your bottom is not as high as the 70-year-old woman next to you that's still like practicing, and you're like, what the hell?
I know that woman.
So yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, me too. My mom
Tony
is like that
that woman.
This is true. This is true. Well, and you danced at first for so long, and then you got into acting. What inspired you to go into the acting realm? I know, like you.
Yeah, it was
felt
accident.
It
was truly on accident. I was like, you asked me in high school, and I was like, I don't want to be an actor. I'm just going to be a dancer. And my mom was an equity agent. Now she's a manager. But I grew up with backstage watching Rent on Broadway with all her clients and seeing all of that stuff. So I knew that that's what I wanted. And then when I was in high school, I had to take a theater course because something in my schedule was not lining up or something. And I really did it like, theater, fine, I'll do it. And then in the class, I remember he kept pushing me to audition for the play. Bob Garrett is my theater teacher's name. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm a dancer. Like, no way. And I auditioned and got the lead in this play. And then I was like, okay, fine, maybe I'll do it. And I remember being so excited to come home and memorize these lines. And it's the first time I really understood what it meant to create a character and not just like get on stage and be yourself. Yeah. Because with dance, you pour so much of yourself into as self-expression into the choreography. And I remember I like ran downstairs one time and was like, Mom, I get it. Like I get acting now. Like it's not about, it's like all this stuff. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And like went back up to her and like, I just couldn't get enough of this idea that it was, it just was so exciting. It felt like I was, I don't know, making chemistry happen in my,
Yeah.
So I love it. I'm totally in, and that's how it happened.
I had a question.
Yes.
And oh my God, I just pulled a Mark J Freeman.
I'll ask one
Mark
then.
does that all the time. Go ahead.
Who do you spend time with, co-stars from Days of Our Lives, outside of...
Well, I mean, we've all been so busy. There hasn't been really a chance yet. I'm texting with like a lot of people. Teo and I actually just messaged each other the other day. I have seen Mary Beth a lot. I was moving and she came over and helped me with that. And she's just so awesome. And I saw Deidre Hall at her
star
on which was so great.
Yeah.
And I don't know who else. I mean, I'm texting with Marnie and with Rob, and I was in Florida shooting that film, and then I haven't had too much time yet, but I think that the friendships I've made there will last a long time. Yeah. All the days of my lives.
Oh. Now, before we have to wrap up, because I feel the Emmy music about to play, what did you enjoy about playing Abigail for these 5 years? And what did you learn?
Oh God, so much. You would give me that question last.
Our questions are difficult sometimes.
I know. I think that I think being an actor is sometimes something that's really difficult. You know, there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of bullshit and whatever. And I had the privilege to go somewhere every single day for 5 years right out of college and have somewhere to put things, to put whatever I was going through and to understand what it meant to be able to do that. Yeah. And I felt every single day that I was there so lucky to have that opportunity. I felt, I learned so much. It was the best thing that ever happened to me and will be, because I got to go there. I mean, I majored in PR. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know my upstage dance. Stuart used to have to hold a sign like this and be like, I didn't know anything, really. Yeah. And I learned how to memorize lines, like just the simple things. And also to be able to be in the presence of so many strong, incredible women like Christian and like Deidre and like Mary Beth and like Missy and my makeup artist, Deidre and everybody, to be able to be a young woman that's in that sort of critical developmental place in your life and be surrounded by these uber professionals that you can kind of look to and go, okay, I know where I want to land. I know what I'm moving towards. I know it's just you get this like, I don't know, this like raising, this like upbringing, and it was God, I was just lucky. And about Abigail, what did I enjoy? I enjoyed every single screwed up thing that she did, because it was always from her heart, 100% committed, and she messed up badly. Yeah. And she always owned up to it, massively as well. So I think I learned all I could.
She was always, it took some time, but she was always forgiven in the end. I think Abigail's one of those staple characters that you just always have loved and always will love.
Right. She's the good girl that went bad. And that's one of the things that Dean and I talked about too, because she had originated the role. It's like, well, what happens if we kind of hang in limbo for a minute where it's that place of like, maybe, with Chad, I mean, that's hard. You just had a baby and you're like, I'm going to just peace out of my life for a minute because I can't take it. He had to come every single day to visit her and do all that stuff. And that really speaks to the partner in a mental illness relationship as well. Yeah. But
and
what happens if you don't just forgive someone right away? And what happens if Abigail's not just always like, oops, I slept with your husband and now what?
Now what do I do?
Not that it's that simple, but I think that was like a really cool part of the story for all of us to explore.
There were two leading men that we didn't talk about yet. Matthew Ashford and Casey Moss, your father and brother on the show. What was it like working with them?
So great. I mean, it was fleeting, obviously, with Matt because he went down an elevator shaft.
Although leave it to Mark, he's coming back.
Mark is certain Jack's coming back.
But and it was so nice to be able to work with him again. But he's great, and we're seeing the dynamic with Missy Reeves and Matt Ashford was really cool for me because that was set in place before I was there and while the other Abigail was there. So that was really cool to explore with them. And with Casey Moss, I felt instantly with him. Instantly. The minute I saw the whites of his eyes, I felt this like strange sort of like not parental connection to him. I mean, it was so instinctual. And again, for what's for you doesn't pass you by. Like
Right.
Casey was so meant to have that job, and he did. And I remember looking at him in the beginning. Do you remember that storyline he had about being in jail and he was this like troublemaker? And I was like, oh my God, he's reminding me of James Dean right now. And of this, I mean, he's such a well of emotion, and he has so much talent in him, and he's such a good kid with a good heart.
You can tell he's a good kid. He's got a warmth about him.
Oh my God, he's just so great. But yeah, we had that brother-sister thing like right away. And he's, terrific. And his, and Paige. And True O'Brien is also amazing. So we got to see, their relationship sort of like bloom and everything while I was there, which was really fun for me. And I'm so happy for her that she's won. Yeah. So yeah, I think Casey Moss was meant for the role, is terrific, has a very bright future ahead of him, and Matthew Ashford was, the best dad.
Short-term dad.
He's a dad. He understood how to do the dad thing and be like, oh, dad, he's like making you laugh and yeah.
Well, we unfortunately have run out of time. We have to wrap things up. But before we go, I just want to say that you have done an amazing job as Abigail.
Yes.
And everyone in
I miss you already.
Yes.
Aww.
Everyone in the chat room agrees that you need to definitely put in an Emmy reel for 2017.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
And we are all rooting for you to hopefully this time not only get a pre-nomination, but actually get a nomination and be on stage holding that Emmy, because
Thanking Matthew and Tony.
Yes. I mean, because the
if it happens, how about we'll come back here? And
yes, and we'll talk about it.
It's very sweet. Thank you.
Just the work that you've done has been amazing, and
Thank you.
I hope that if no one has told you that, I hope that we here at Audition Days think that you are amazing, and our fans think that you are amazing as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I also
Thank you for
want to
joining
shine
us.
the light back. I was given something amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that, and I will absorb that. But I was given an amazing story to tell.
Yeah.
by a lot of
Although
people.
the one thing I hate the way Abigail left. I was like, no, she can't just leave like that. No, she has to come back.
Well, you know what? Lucky for you, you have someone there now that can maybe write that for you and can.
Well, I'm hoping
finish.
I'm hoping for them to write in Maxine's son. That would be.
Oh, there you
that would be me. Yeah. We're still
gonna
hashtag
put that
Maxine's
out
son.
there.
We just keep throwing that out there in the
See?
universe.
Go
We
for it.
almost made
Seeing-
it through the episode.
I know I hadn't even said it. But yeah, we put that out there. So yeah.
Thank
way
you,
you do
Kate, for
things.
coming in to
Thank
see
you
us.
guys so much for
A
having me.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you, and thanks
Matthew,
for calling
before
in.
we head out, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Matthew E. Paine.
And of course, Kate, where can all the fans find you and keep up with you?
I will be at Kate Mansi.
Everywhere.
Instagram, Twitter, yeah.
And you're very
all of
active on it
think.
too. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it because of the fans. Like, how could you not engage with them?
This is true. And of course, you guys can find me on all social media platforms at Lounging with Tony or my website, loungingwithtony.com. And don't forget, every Sunday right here at AfterBuzz TV, we give you a full recap of the week's episodes of Days of Our Lives, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again, Kate, for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining in, and we'll see you this Sunday for a full recap. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.